All right, let's talk about a trading model from a guy who is, quite literally, one of the best in the world, Fabio Valentino. We're talking a top 3 ranked scalper globally who pulled in a return of over 500% in a single year. So how on earth does he do it? We're going to break it all down.
Okay, let's just kick this off with a pretty brutal number, 90%. That is the percentage of traders who consistently lose money. I mean, just think about that. It's a huge, huge problem, and it's exactly what we're here to tackle today.
And who better to guide us than the man himself, Fabio? With this quote, he's not just pointing out the problem. He's basically saying, hey, I've got the solution. He has seen what everybody does wrong, and he's going to show us a completely different way.
So what is the big secret? Why do so many people fail? Well, it really just comes down to one thing: a total misunderstanding of what a trader's job even is. Most people think their job is to predict the future. It's not. It's about reading what's happening right now.
Okay, so look at this. It's the perfect way to understand the two mindsets. On one side, you've got the predictor. This person sees a pattern, a classic breakout or something, and they just jump in, crossing their fingers. Fabio says this approach, just trading patterns in a vacuum, only works about 30% of the time. You're basically guessing. But then, you have the reader. They see the exact same pattern, but they don't just react. They look at the whole picture, the context. They're not guessing. They're reacting to what the market is actually telling them. And that shift in thinking, that can bump your win rate by 20, even 30%, a huge difference.
So how do you become a reader? Well, the whole foundation of Fabio's model is built on this one really cool idea: auction market theory. Forget about the squiggly lines on a chart for a second. Instead, think of the market as a giant, non-stop auction. Most of the time, things are in balance. Buyers and sellers pretty much agree on what a fair price is. But then it gets interesting. The market goes into imbalance, and it starts actively searching for a new fair price. And that, right there, is where the opportunity lies.
And this quote from Fabio just nails it. You stop trying to be a psychic, right? You're not predicting anything. You become a patient observer. You're just waiting for the auction to show its hand.
Okay, so if we're waiting, what are we waiting for? Good question. And that's where Fabio's super practical 3-step model comes into play. It's the exact playbook for reading the market and knowing precisely when to strike.
And here it is. The model is actually beautifully simple. Just 3 steps. First, location. You got to know where you are. Second, validation. You need to confirm your spot. And third, the trigger. You wait for the final signal. So let's dig into what each of those really means.
All right, step 1, location. This is all about context. Before you even think about placing a trade, you have to ask one simple question: where are we in the big auction? And to do that, you use a tool called the volume profile. It shows you exactly where all the action has been happening. Is the market just chopping around in a balanced state? Or is it out of balance and making a real move? Because here's the secret. The best, highest probability trades, they almost only happen when the market is out of balance. Okay, so we found our spot. We're in an unbalanced market. Now it's time for step 2. We're going to zoom in and look at the order flow. This is how we go from a general idea to a super specific, tradable level.
So step 2 is validation. This is where you use order flow analysis to really sharpen your pencil. You're looking for a very specific thing called a low volume node, or an LVN. Basically, these are price levels where almost no trading happened during a big, fast move. Think of it like an air pocket or a void in the auction. And because the market was so inefficient there, those spots act like magnets. Price gets drawn back to them, and they can be incredibly powerful places for a reaction.
And now, the final piece of the puzzle, the trigger. So you've got the right location, you've validated a specific level, but you still don't trade. Not yet. You wait for one last thing. You wait for aggression.
So what the heck is aggression? It's when you see a sudden explosion of market orders hitting all at once. If you're using order flow software, it literally looks like these big bubbles just popping up on the chart. This isn't just price moving. This is the big players forcefully shoving the market in one direction. And when you see that, that's your signal. It lets you get in with an incredibly precise entry, and you can stick your stop loss right behind that wall of orders. Your risk is super, super tight.
So, there you have it. Location, validation, trigger. A pretty clear process, right? But why is this so much better than just trading regular old patterns? What's the real edge here?
I mean, really, why go through all this trouble? Why look at volume and order flow when you can just look at some candles on a chart?
Well, the edge comes down to three key things. First, it's objective. A price pattern can be kind of subjective. You might see it differently than I do, but a 300-lot order hitting the market, that's just data. There's no arguing with it. Second, your risk management is on another level. You're not guessing where to put your stop. The aggression tells you exactly where it needs to go. And finally, it's adaptable. You're not relying on some fixed pattern that might stop working next week. You're reading the raw, underlying DNA of the market itself. And that brings us to something that kills a lot of trading strategies. A silent killer, really. Edge decay. It's this idea that a strategy that works like magic today might just stop working tomorrow. The market changes, patterns get figured out, and your edge just vanishes.
And this is maybe the biggest advantage of all, because this model isn't based on some flimsy pattern, but on the true nature of the market, that constant auction, that flow of orders. It doesn't really decay. The basic principles of supply and demand, of balance and imbalance, those things are timeless. You're basically reading the market's source code, not just looking at the screen.
So let's wrap it up with this one final thought from Fabio. It just perfectly captures the whole idea. He says, your ability to predict is 0, but your ability to read is 100. Stop trying to be a psychic. You can't predict the future. It's impossible. But you can learn to read what's happening right now, in the present moment. So the question to leave you with is this. What would change for you if you stopped acting like a fortune teller and started acting like a reader?